Thank you, everyone, for joining us here today for our presentation, Values-Driven Cybersecurity, Nerdy Fanatic to Empathic Pragmatist. I am thrilled that you are all here. I am Gary Braglia. I'm the VP of Services here at OrbitalFire. I've been here about a year and a half. Prior to that, been in cybersecurity for the better part of now 12 years. Been doing everything from technical work to assessments and governance and everything in between. So really have kind of lived this, and we here at OrbitalFire really are passionate about really kind of getting out of the uh, kind of technical speak and really trying to engage with customers in a more meaningful way. So really, we can get into it here. I mean, any of us that have ever uttered the phrase "just reboot it," like as a first response to literally any IT problem, or you've ever had the pleasure of trying to explain multi-factor authentication to a client only to watch their soul slowly escape from their body. That right there is why we're here today, because between all the confusing three-letter acronyms, the 3 a.m. alerts about suspicious PowerShell activity, all the compliance framework jargon, we, the MSPs, the MSSPs, the cybersecurity and technical professionals really have become these preachy, messengers of fear, maybe a little too eager to show our customers how smart we are instead of how much we truly understand their situations. When in reality, most clients don't care how smart you are, they care how secure they feel. And we all know, of course, that feelings don't necessarily match reality. You can feel secure even though you're not, and you can be secure even when you don't feel it. So getting us to that level where we can connect with our customers, it requires some things that not all of us were trained to do. I mean, things like how to build trust without using technical jargon, how to guide and influence and manage without ego, and even gasp when to say something like, I don't know. Sort of this notion of not trying to fit our customers into a predefined technology or solution that's just one of our go-tos that we've used dozens of times in the past, regardless of how it will actually fit into our customers' world. It's similar to how when technology and computers were first sort of introduced, they required humans to conform to their non-intuitive machine-based mechanisms in order to react, right? You used to have to write in machine code and use punch cards to get these things to do some simple arithmetic. And then obviously keyboards and mice, and cut to now where we've gotten to a place where computers have been designed much more with the human end users in mind. Small, we carry them in our pockets, on our wrists. We're using our own language and words to speak to our technology, literally commanding from across the room Alexa to order us things, right? Um, so really, I think historically, MSPs, cybersecurity companies have tended to lead more with preaching about technology, using what we lovingly refer to as nerd speak, trying to fit what we think will work in a one size fits all type of mentality, and forgetting, or maybe not even considering at all, the importance of really connecting with customers' unique needs and values. So we think we need to flip this, right? To change the way we interact with customers about cybersecurity, leading with understanding our clients and our customers' values, gaining their trust, then supporting um, what we understand about them with technology where it makes sense. Because the real threat to cybersecurity isn't just malware or hackers, it's misaligned expectations. It's solutions that people can't maintain. It's that gap between what we think they need and what they're actually ready for, right? So some of our goals for today. First, we want to, try and get ourselves from this tech wizard mentality to trusted partner. We'll talk a little bit more about what we mean there. Introduce this concept and explain this concept of values-driven cybersecurity. Start actually using empathy as a security tool, which is kind of an interesting concept that I can't wait to get into. And then some takeaways, some real world ways of using this. So first, the myth of this tech hero, right? So they've got, you can picture it, right? They've got one, way too many monitors. Each has 47 tabs open. They haven't blinked in 3 hours. They drink Red Bull by the gallon. they're pretty quick to fix things. Maybe they fix things fast, but they're a little slow to listen. Maybe not always, fixing the most important thing, right? You think about it even this way. So think about a small medical clinic that gets hit with a phishing attack. Nothing major, but they're obviously and understandably rattled. So they call in the cybersecurity expert. Our expert shows up, starts quoting NIST 800 controls. He starts spouting off his observations. Your DMARC record needs hardening. Your VLANs are flat, and your endpoint telemetry. Don't even get me started. It's a nightmare. Okay. The customer, nodding politely while secretly Googling what the heck is a VLAN on their phone. By the end of your meeting, customer maybe agreed to a $20,000 solution, sure, but they don't understand it and they definitely aren't going to use half of it. So then what happens next? Well, 6 months later, they get hit again because nobody changed their passwords. Nobody understood the risks. The solution, quote unquote, didn't really solve anything. Here's the problem. When you are the smartest person in the room, people stop talking. They nod, they smile, but they definitely don't, admit that they don't understand something, and they don't open up. They don't share, and that's where you're missing a huge opportunity. Also, trust doesn't come from quoting compliance frameworks. It comes from listening, learning customers and individual pain points before you pitch a product, right? We had a client once who was really, really worried about ransomware, not because of data potentially being encrypted, right? She was terrified because last time it happened, she had to cancel her son's birthday party to deal with it, right? In this case, what mattered to her most, it wasn't having a sock. It was business continuity. She wanted her Sunday, right? If we had come in talking about using SIMs and DNS, we'd have missed what she really needed, just peace of mind. She wanted that free weekend. She didn't want to have to come in and work on a weekend, right? So really understanding that is huge. Also, another reason why this mythological tech hero will fail. This one's a tough one because a lot of us would rather try to, do anything, right, than say the words, I don't know. But here's the trick. People don't actually expect you to know everything. They expect you to tell the truth. When you say, I don't know, but I'll find out, something pretty amazing happens. They actually see you as human and, more importantly, reliable. Think about it. When you need to be right, you create a culture where everyone else needs to be wrong. Suddenly, no one wants to work with you or listen to you. And the irony is, when you're the tech hero and you position yourself as the all-knowing, guardian of uptime, you're the reason, right? In this case, you're the reason the business is still running. You're the most important person. You're the hero here. Problem is that also means if anything does go wrong, guess who's getting the heat? Yep, you are. Because you never shared responsibility. You didn't build the team. You didn't teach and explain in plain English. And when the customer doesn't understand what you did or why it mattered, the only thing they're going to remember is things broke and you were supposed to be the expert. Okay, so we talked about this myth of the tech hero. Let's shift gears a little bit to this idea of values-driven cybersecurity. What does it mean to be values-driven? It's aligning our services and our decisions, not just with compliance checklists and threat intel, but with what matters most to the business. What are the major drivers for our customers and our clients? Is it customer trust? Do they pride themselves on transparency internally or externally to their customers? Are they struggling or, resistant to change? If we don't understand these things, there's no way we can properly or practically secure them, right? Thinking of empathy as a security tool, right? Empathy may not seem like a technical skill, right? And I guess in most ways it isn't, but it's a critical one. When a client feels heard, they open up, right? When a customer feels like you are listening to them, they share, they trust you. with their biggest issues, and they'll share their most critical concerns. And cybersecurity, that right there, that is where the real risks hide. So we want to build the bridge from where the client's business world, from we want to build that bridge from our customers and our clients' business world to our security-based or technical solution. The other way we do this is by leading with pragmatism, right? Pragmatism. So you don't have to be a therapist. You just have to be curious. Ask your customers, your best clients, what is keeping you up at night? What does your staff struggle the most with? Then let's shape our services around what's real for them, not what's flashy or what's trending, just what's needed. That right there, that is empathic pragmatism. And we want to make sure that everything we're doing aligns with not only our customers' concerns, but their values, right? Everything, their budgets, the real risks, like we talked about. We'll get into all of these as we move through the presentation here, but their company's mission and their culture. We want to be supporting all of these with our decisions, with our solutions, and with any potential technology that we put in place. We really need to understand what our customers value. This is a big, big piece of this, right? If we're going to lead, if we're going to be driven, right? If we're going to be values driven cybersecurity, we need to understand their values. What are the most important things to our customers? Is it budgets? All of our customers, all organizations have limited budgets, and particularly when it comes to cybersecurity. All right, we want to make sure, do they have limited budgets, or do they have an endless amount budgeted that they can spend on cybersecurity? Or is the physical security of their workforce the most important thing to them? Maybe they work in a, potentially dangerous environment where there are real risks to personnel. Maybe it's compliance. Maybe it's strictly compliance. They need to get their HIPAA compliance assessment done. They want to get they want to get a SOC 2 audit done and a readiness assessment. Strict letter of compliance, maybe that's what's driving them to do these things. Maybe they have a much more laid back attitude. They don't want to force their employees to do things. They're not going to make security awareness training mandatory, right? They're going to have a laid back approach. We need to understand things, not only their values, but the culture at the organizations and the customers that we work with. Because maybe on the flip side of that, they don't mind putting strict controls in place and limiting access and making things like training and phishing exercises mandatory, right? And then finally, maybe they just want a competitive advantage. Maybe they want to be able to brag about all the great things that they're doing. They want to beat their competition and get better, deals and win bigger and better customers, right? Understanding what our clients value is absolutely critical to putting the best solution in place for them. Not only, right, this isn't just about our clients, though. What are your values, your organizations? Do you prioritize fairness? Is it transparency? Is it kindness? Is it efficiency? Have you stated your values as an organization, right? Let those shape your offerings, your recommendations, even your contracts. Clients can really smell authenticity or the lack of it from a mile away. If you first identify your values, not to mention live them, right? Then internally, you can build a team that's going to share that common set of values and support those values, which ultimately will lead to better recruitment, less turnover. And at the end of the day, customers know that, and they'll get a sense of that in the way that you're delivering your services, the way that you're communicating with them, all interactions with them. They're gonna get a good sense of that. Okay, we introduced this idea of values-driven cybersecurity. Right now, let's get into what we mean by this empathic pragmatist, the top 5 traits for what we are calling our empathic pragmatist here. So we love this quote here, right? If we could spend all our time, talking, if all we're doing is talking at our customers and clients about what they should be doing and haven't shut up and listened to them, we are missing a huge opportunity here, right? So let's try and understand, right? Talk less. Try to listen to more. Think and ask questions. Think of some non-technical questions that'll help you learn about your customers' concerns, their values, their goals, right? What keeps you up at night when it comes to your business and technology in general? How would you, when you think about security, how would you define success? What does a successful outcome look like from your cybersecurity program? Have you ever had a bad experience with technology? What happened, right? Before we talk about technology, let's try to understand their business. Try to resist listing and rattling off tools and features until they've really clearly expressed what their challenges are, right? We can talk through solutions, but we won't recommend anything until we've fully understood how the business runs, what matters to our customers, and we've got to use plain English, right? We want to be using too much nerd speak. They're not going to understand us. So the answers to these important questions should really help shape our security roadmap, not the other way around. We don't want to be forcing this stuff on our customers. We want to think about, right, building our roadmap, considering likelihood and impact for our customers. Think about everything in terms of risk based on all the intel you've just gathered with all those good questions, right? Prioritize your recommended solutions in risk-based order so we can avoid that low-hanging fruit syndrome, right? Doing what's easy instead of what's best. We want to flip that. We want to be doing the most impactful things for our customers rather than the easiest. And then also, while you're doing all that, how about inviting the client along into the planning process? Share drafts of the security roadmap that you've got going so far. Ask them for input on what resonates, what feels off maybe to them. Let them know this is our starting point. This is just our starting point. We'll adjust this together. We want to make sure it reflects their unique business needs, values, concerns. So let's talk about reliability. We may think of this as showing up to fix something that's broken, or automating away all efficiencies, tracking everything in ticketing systems. Reliability is even better, however, if you are relatable, right? Earning trust and dependability should be built upon a foundation of connection rather than just technical competence. So the ways we do this, right? One of the most trust eroding things you can say uh, is this: we'll take care of everything. Sounds good, right? It's a nice little phrase to say, except one problem. It's a lie. You're not going to take care of everything. And your client knows that. So instead, try this. Here's what you can expect from us, and here's what we're going to need from you, right? Boom. Now we've made it collaborative. Taking off our cape, right? We're not the tech hero. We are a partner now, right? Also, you can't build trust if you're only visible when the server's on fire. That's not a trusted partner. That's a tactical acquaintance. Now, showing up consistently doesn't mean flooding inboxes with status reports either. It means doing that 15-minute monthly check-in call, even if there's nothing new, following up when you said you would, and being the one who reminds your client that it's time for that overdue password policy update before the auditor does, right? It's not exciting. These aren't flashy things that you're doing in these interactions, but it goes a very long way in building trust. Another, right? Because we've all gotten the email, hey, we haven't heard from you in a while. Can we get an update on, ABC? Oof, that is a painful email. So being proactive means staying one step ahead. Hey, there's always a lot of phishing attacks around tax season or the holidays. So we've queued up a quick awareness video for your team, or something along these lines, right? You're not waiting to be asked. You're building the bridge before somebody steps in the river. And also, one of the most powerful ways to be relatable is when you say, hey, any questions? Seriously, anything. We don't judge here, right? Invite those questions. The second you make your client feel stupid for asking, they're going to stop asking. And then they're going to start Googling. And we all know what happens when people Google cybersecurity advice. A couple of clicks later, and they're on your competitor's website, right? Encourage questions, even the quote unquote silly ones. Questions mean engagement. Engagement means they're listening, they're learning, and they're trusting you more every day, right? Being relatable is going to be what makes you reliable to your customers. You don't try to be perfect because you will fail, and your clients don't even relate to perfection. Because I got news for you, they ain't perfect either, and they know it, right? Be consistent, set clear expectations, speak like a human and show up when it's boring, not just when it's urgent. Big, big Bruce Lee fan. Um, One of his main mantras is just right doing what works and letting everything else kind of fall away. Simple, direct, effective. And the same philosophy here, right? Design for your client's reality, not the ideal conditions of the universe, right? Match the complexity of whatever system or solution you are designing to the client's actual resources, to the time, staffing, skill levels. Yeah, we can design a pretty bulletproof setup that would work if your client has a 30-person full-time IT staff, right? When they have one office manager wearing 5 different hats, we build a system they can actually run. And also, cybersecurity, as we all know, is not fire and forget, right? It needs to we need to build maintenance into the plan, right? Document what needs to be done daily, weekly, monthly, and who's going to do it. Include that clear plan of timeframes and tasks so your client knows exactly what to check and when. And in this spirit of adaptability, build in transition plans. Document how to shift from the current setup, the current tools to new ones if they become obsolete or cost prohibitive. Every plan should include some version of an escape hatch, right? Because we don't just design for now, for today. We plan for 5 years from now when your needs may change. Also, teach clients why we put in place each process or technology or control, why they matter, so they prioritize and see the value long term, right? We want to train the why, not just the how. Don't just train your customers to click here, run this report there. Explain the why, right? Why it's in place, what is happening behind the scenes. This way, they're going to feel ownership over that solution and that process instead of confused or even, you know, overwhelmed, which happens a lot of the time. And we really want to make sure that any solution, any tools that we put in place, technology particularly, supports, not replaces human interaction, right? We want to try and choose platforms that enhance conversations, not ones that create little silos or that just try and eliminate human oversight. Automation is great, but not if it means your client stops checking in or you lose that communication, that regular communication with them. It's a great idea to schedule human checkpoints into the system and recurring calls, not just ticket threads or dashboards, right? Embed those regular review sessions into every plan in terms of building that trust and that confidence. Even the slickest automation out there is not going to replace that 8-minute talk with your customer, right? We don't want the big leaps. We want consistency, right? We don't want the New Year's resolution syndrome, right? We don't want that. Everybody loves a grand gesture. It's dramatic. It makes headlines and it feels productive. Like you're finally doing the thing, right? A company says, we are launching a massive security overhaul this quarter. We're getting a dozen new tools. We're doing a 2-day all staff training. We're going to restructure our entire policy framework in 60 days. Then what happens? Burnout, confusion, half configured tools. It's the cybersecurity equivalent literally of that New Year's resolution, right? I haven't worked out all year, so I'm going to do CrossFit twice a year or twice a day rather for the next month, and I'm going to live on, kale and water. This doesn't work in fitness, definitely doesn't work in cybersecurity. Instead, we want to think of cybersecurity more like brushing your teeth. You don't wait 6 months and then brush your teeth 90 times in one day and expect great results, right? You brush a little every day without the drama. So you want to focus on those durable habits, right? Prioritize habits over exotic, right? Technical controls. You don't need a $10,000 AI firewall if you're still using the same password on every system. Cybersecurity is push-ups. The basics done consistently beat complexity every time. Use business context, where we want to get an understanding of the agreeable acceptable security thresholds. We're going to define what's secure enough with your customer, right? Industry, depending on the context, size, the risk appetite. Start by asking what keeps you up at night? What would keep you up at night? That's going to tell us what matters most and help us draw the line between enough and too much. But then for every technical recommendation, also, never forget to ask what process supports this technology and who's going to own this. Before deploying any solution, map out who is involved and how the process fits in there. If we are not accounting for the people in the process along with our technology, it becomes shelfware, right? We've all been there. And really, I mean, we want progress. We don't need perfection. Perfection doesn't exist in cybersecurity. I'm sure we've all come to that conclusion by this time, right? Provide those clear before and after snapshots, though, that demonstrate risk reduction, even if some gaps still remain. You don't need to aim for perfect. Aim for better every quarter, and show the wins so they know that the journey has been worth it. Oh, I can relate to this one for sure. Not always the first thought in my head is to, ask for help. But we want to make sure that we're creating this culture where admitting that you are uncertain is safe. Internally and externally, normalize saying, I'm not sure. Let me find out. Right? I think it's stronger to ask the right question than fake the right answer. That's how you build trust that lasts. Knowing your limits is wisdom. I mean, document your strength and weakness, whether it's compliance, forensics, OT secure, what do you do well? We're great at compliance and detections, but when it comes to networks or digital forensics, incident response, we bring in the experts, right? And make sure you know who your best partners are. Have that bench. Be sure to build a go-to partner network before you need it and pre-vet, whether it's trusted vendors, compliance specialists, IR firms, all these niche experts, you know, who you're going to call on when you need them. You want to have that bench of allies so that when you have some kind of a specialized need, you're not scrambling, right? We can call in the right backup at the right time. And then celebrate the wins even when you called for help, right? Share those success stories with with your customers and your clients where specialists improve the outcomes because of that teamwork, right? You tell your customer, look at the teamwork we did. Through that teamwork and that collaboration, we minimize downtime to just 2 hours, right? This is the power of knowing when to call for help. By emphasizing things like humility, collaboration, follow through, of course, this approach really transforms us as the MSPs from these insecure know-it-alls into confident cybersecurity champions who can inspire that trust and deliver real valuable outcomes. Okay, so we've ditched our capes, we've shedded our tech hero persona for the empathic pragmatist. And now you're wondering, so what's in it for me besides, much fewer people rolling their eyes when I talk? But let me tell you, when you start doing it right, the universe responds. And I'm not just in soft, fuzzy ways. I'm talking real, measurable, business-changing ways. When you are the em empathetic and empathic advisor, right, the one who listens, explains clearly, makes decisions with your customers and your clients instead of for them, suddenly they want to talk to you. They call you before they install, that free, technology or whatever it is that they heard about at a conference, right? They bring you into those meetings to help you make or to help them make their decisions, right? They take you on their journey because they trust you, right? So that's going to foster these longer term relationships. And also, here's a shocker. It's easier to sell when people trust you, not fear you, not tolerate you, actually trust you, right? All because you didn't come out of the gate with assumptions of what your customer and your client potentially needed in a sales pitch on some sexy new tech. You led with asking about their pain points, understanding their business. So when it's time to add more, they get it and they do it, right? So it makes upsells much easier. You know also what happens when you stop being the know it all and start being the collaborator, the partner, the helper, your name gets passed around, right? Huge reputational bump here. Suddenly, you're not the cybersecurity company or the MSP who talks down to people, right? You're not just a provider anymore. You're a trusted partner. That's who gets those referrals. Trying to be perfect, solve every problem yourself, right? Explaining email spoofing to the same person for the 14th time without screaming into your pillow, right? Yeah, that's how you burn out. But when you admit that you don't know, when you build values-based teams and share that mental load and that burden, guess what? You get to breathe, you get to sleep, you get to say things like, "That's a great question. Let me tap our compliance partner." Right? You don't have to know everything. Instead, you can be the folks that your clients trust to figure it out. Even when you don't have that answer, they know you'll get it. Being likable, relatable, and trusted is a huge competitive advantage, right? Where your competition is still showing up to meetings and conferences and doing webinars full of the same boring cybersecurity buzzwords that we've all been hearing for the past 10 years, still trying to prove how smart they are. You know what you're doing? You're building relationships. You're proving that you care. You're solving the right problems in the right way. You're the one that they're going to stay with, that they're going to promote, even when nobody's asking, right? So it's a big competitive advantage. Okay, let's talk about some practical takeaways here. What are the things that we really want to say and drive home here? The points to all of this, right? Speak to be understood. If your client can't confidently explain the solution that you've offered to someone else, or even worse, to their own team, we haven't done our job. Use plain language that meets them where they are, not where you are. That is how understanding and trust and reliability is built. Build secure environments that clients can actually run and maintain themselves. You know, the tools, the solutions that you put in place should support their success, not require your constant presence to function. When clients feel capable and confident, they feel more secure. And that's what they're going to uh, take with them, right? The feeling that you gave them or the feeling that they got from working with you was more security, even if they don't have to, and especially if they don't have to uh, be calling you every other day. Really want to make sure that we are aligning security with real life, not just the best practices. Prioritize, protections that actually reduce risk, not just check boxes. A security control that disrupts operations without offering value isn't a win. Meet them in that messy middle and really try to think pragmatically, right? Make security that shared journey instead of a top-down mandate. The more your client feels part of the build, part of the solution, the more likely they're going to maintain it and recognize that value behind it. Lastly, admit when you don't know and then go find out, right? Clients trust you more when they know you're being honest. Keep that strong bench, partners, vendors, specialists, and lean on them when needed. The real hero in this instance isn't the person who pretends to have all the answers, right? It's the one who knows their strengths, understands their gaps. You may not know, but you know how to get the right answer. This final note, one of my favorite quotes. When you do it right, when you trade in the nerd speak and the fear mongering for connections and shared goals, you're no longer that company that your client dreads calling. We all have a company like that, don't we? Right? You're no longer that company, and you've now become the advisor they invite to the holiday party. And make no mistake, you still get to brag and keep your team's credentials and your skills and your smarts, and you can even again you can talk about that, but you're not leading with that, right? It's not the only thing that your customers hear. It's not about being less of a tech expert, and this is the point. It's just about being more of a human, evolving, right? Just like our technology has. Well, that's it for me. Thank you so much again for joining us here for our presentation on values-driven cybersecurity. Here is my contact information. You can reach out to me, you can reach out to Dana, anyone on our team if you have any additional questions. I thank you once again and have a great rest of your day.